What's up, everyone? Welcome to another episode of Hardwood Voices. I'm your host, Sean Holmes, and this is a space where we talk the game of basketball, leadership, and the deeper lessons it teaches us on and off the court. Today, I'm joined by one of the most accomplished coaches in the history of high school basketball, Coach Duease. I'm grateful and honored to have you on Hardwood Voices today.
And I'm so proud to be here. Thank you for having me.
Yes, sir. Coach, I want to start with where you are right now. Being in your final season, does this year feel any different for you?
It's mixed. I know I'm going to probably miss practices. I'm going to probably miss some games. Exciting games like not like the one we had last night where we're up 40 in the second quarter. That doesn't excite me too much anymore. But it's time. 51 years is a long time, and I've got a grandson now, so I'm looking forward to spending a little more time with them.
You've seen the game change in just about every way possible, and you've seen a great deal of the game's evolution. So, at this stage of your career, what do you believe great coaching really comes down to?
I think there, I think there are a couple things that make a difference. I think one is a head coach. I think you have to be able to determine how much pressure you can put on a player or how you have to handle that player to make him a maximum player for you. You can't treat everyone the same. I mean, I've got some guys that I can go after, I can bulldog after, and it'll make them mad and they'll come back and fight harder. Then I've got some that if I did that, they'd go into a shell. I think the key in coaching right now is to determine quickly how your players can react to your criticism or your praise and go from there on that. And then, I just think that you got to put them in the maximum positions to be able to be successful. The game has changed from a slow down to from 10 passes before you look for a shot. Now you're trying to get the angles as fast as you can, so you're pushing the ball, and you're looking for those angles to get to the rim or get that open three, and and to put them in those positions also adds to success.
You talked about adapting to certain players and not treating everyone the same. How do you adapt to those players, but also continue with keeping the same standards that you've set?
Sure. I think it's just a matter of how you're going to, like I tell my guys, look, this isn't personal. We're talking business now. This is business. We're trying to handle our team as a company, and we want the very best results from them. So, I think it's just important. Like, let's just take let's just take Erick Dampier. I could go after Erick Dampier, even though he's in the 10th grade. I can go after him hard and he will respond. It will not phase him as far as his mental, well, am I not good enough? Now, take another player and I go after him the same way, he may shut down. And what we don't need, especially this time of year, about to start our third season of basketball, we don't need anyone shutting down. We need them to be positive and playing free and playing with confidence.
And Eric Dampier Jr. is obviously amongst the top ranked in the country. Is that the most important thing to you when coaching him? Is that your favorite thing about coaching him, that you can get onto him hard, or is it something else?
Well, I just think the deal with Erick is he wants to be the best. He wants to be the best. Now, he's still a kid. I mean, he just turned 16 years old. It's
Doesn't look
not,
like it, coach.
no, I know he doesn't. And it's only going to get better looking too in the next couple of years. So, but he understands. He's played in that national, tournaments, and he's done those things. He understands what it takes. He sees what other players are doing to make themselves greater, and he's willing to do that. So I think for him and his dad's a very big influence. He pushes him, and that's why I love having Big Erick on staff because he does work with our post guys. And I just think you're going to say in 2 years from now, you're going to say, my gosh, I don't know if we've ever had a big man like this in the Mississippi before.
You've mentioned before that early on you modeled your coaching after Bob Knight. What are some things that you learned from him?
Well, he told me one time, he said, you know what the key to coaching is, don't you? And I said, no, sir, what is that? And he said, don't trust a single one of them. He says, you got to make sure that you get your point across and that they do what you want them to do. I just learned man-to-man principles. I'm mainly a man-to-man coach. Sometimes I think I try to outsmart myself, and I'll go to a zone, and they'll hit a three on me the first time I go to a zone. So that makes me mad. So I go back man-to-man, but just the principles that I've learned over the years, now they've adjusted a little bit. I mean, because the athletes have gotten better. I mean, you got better athletes now. So rather than getting one body over midline if the ball's below the block on the backside, now we may have a step in the lane so we can recover quicker. That type stuff. But he motion offense. It's hard to scout motion offense if you have them reading the screens and making the right cuts. But I thought that's where he was really, really good.
So you would say your offense evolved mostly of just playing faster, and how would your defense evolve?
Well, I think my defense has evolved in that, and it can evolve real easy when you have Erick protecting as a go defender. You can put your guards and pressure the other players on the other team. They're better guards. You can pressure them more and not worry about them getting beat off the dribble because you have him back there to protect the rim. So that's been a key for us this year, is that we have been able to try to pressure the good guards, because all the teams have good guards. They have some good guards. They can shoot it, they can drive it. And if you can limit those touches for those guys, and you have him protecting if the guards do get beat, then you have a chance to win the game.
At this point of your career now, I think it's safe to say that many coaches would have run out of gas by now. What's still motivating you to keep going every day, and how challenging does that get?
Well, my wife's 10 years younger than me, so I got a young wife, and she keeps pushing me, and she enjoys it. I'm just so competitive. The competition, I've always been that way. I didn't care if it was ping pong, tennis, or horseshoes. I wanted to win. And so I haven't lost that drive yet. So as long as I have that, I feel like I'm able to coach.
And I know that your standards are the same, so the things that your players would say about you 10 years ago or 20 years ago is probably the same things they say about you now. How do you think your players would respond if I asked to describe you as a coach?
Well, I think probably those guys 10 or 15 years ago would say, man, he's gotten lenient. He's not as rough as he used to be. I'm sure that, because I hear that all the time. But this year's team has been a very pleasant team to coach. I've got guys that really care about each other. I've got strong Christian young men that understand their role, and they understand what they're here for. And it's not just basketball; it's to share God's faith and to be a part of that movement. And I think the Lord's just blessing us right now.
I love that, coach. Josh Hubbard is now a top three leading scorer in the SEC. How hard were you on him, and what was it like coaching him day to day?
Well, I've coached him since the eighth grade, so and then uh, sometimes you allow. I'm a big defensive coach. At times when we had Hub, he was our scorer. I mean, yeah, we have one or two other guys that make it score some, but not really consistently. But he could. So if I kind of allowed him to slide a little bit defensively sometimes, because I couldn't take the chance of taking him out of the game because we may get behind too far and we can't catch up. So that's probably how I pushed him. I pushed him to a point, really offensively, to look for the shot, because he's a volume shooter. He's a volume. He's a guy that needs to play all the game if you need him. He's a guy that once he sees one go through, he may hit 7 in a row. But until he sees that one go through, he may miss 5 in a row. That's the type guy he is. But I think his 9th grade year against Gulfport, when we played Gulfport here, they were really, really good. He hits a game-winning shot at the buzzer from the corner of 3 to make it his 46th point of the game. And we beat Gulfport as a 9th grader. That right there told me what he's capable of doing, and he's done that his whole career.
And you've helped them a lot with just scheduling those tough games like that. Could you talk about games like that to just help them prepare for the next level?
Yeah, I mean, it just wasn't him. I mean, we were the first private school team, because I've been pushing for public and private to play each other for years. And of course, I couldn't get anything done, so I had to start going out of state. And so years ago, I sat down with our headmaster, who was great for us, and he said, "Look, I want y'all to do whatever you need to be successful." And so we started going to California. We started going to Reno, Nevada, to Virginia, to Fort Lauderdale. I mean, we've been all over. We went to Colorado, to Cherry Creek, the largest public school in Colorado, for 5 years, playing the best of the best. And we've had some great stories. I mean, we beat a a first-round draft pick out in Reno. We played against DeMarco Murray, the running back for the Dallas Cowboys, who was the 2 guard for Bishop Gorman out of Las Vegas. And you know how good Bishop Gorman is every year. So those guys, when those guys come back, they don't really talk about us playing these schools around here. They talk about us playing those teams and the memories they have, and it made all those guys better players.
And you also talked about playing in front of 4,500 to 5,000 people at a time. How could you talk about that a little bit, that environment?
Yeah. When we went to the Arby's Classic in Bristol, Tennessee, one of the top 3 high school tournaments in the country. And really, you need 3 D1 players if you want to try to win that tournament. So I guess the best results we had, we went in with Hubbard, Harrison Alexander, who's playing at University of Illinois, Edwardsville, and Ashton McGee. And we won our first game. We played Norcross, Georgia, I think in the second game, and they were ranked like 12th in the country. They had 5 D1 players, 2 to Georgia maybe. We had them 18 going into the 4th quarter, and we get beat 1 in overtime. And we came back and beat a great team next, and then we lost to the number 15 team in the 4th game. So we went 2-2 there, but played 4 really outstanding teams. And then we go down to the Junior Orange Bowl in Fort Lauderdale in Miami, and we played the first round. We played a team out of the Bronx that's highly ranked, and we knocked them off. Hub has 37 points. Harrison Alexander has 28. And then we come back and we beat a team out of Miami. And then we beat a team out of Ohio that was ranked in the top 10 in Ohio in the finals. And I think for the 3 games that we played, or the 4 games we played, I think Hub averaged like 32 a game and Harrison averaged 25, 26 a game. And we were just dominant, and we came back and were really good the rest of the year.
With all those talented players, I know you want to teach them the right way to live and also teach them the right way to play. So how do you teach them to play the right way while also allowing them some freedom?
Well, right now, these past 10, 12, 14 years, I've been pretty free with them on offense. I want more pressure on the ball up the floor. I want to speed the game up for those guys, because the better players you have, the more creativity you have to give those guys. You don't want a great player that can get to the rim in different ways to have to sit there and run a flex offense or run a set for six passes. You want him to get himself in a position to create a one-on-one situation, and if they double team him, he has the ability to find that open guy. And so that's what we're trying to do, is create 2-on-1s on the defense all the time.
What's helped you the most to adjust to certain things like that and not just continue in the same ways that you did back then?
Well, I think if you want to continue to win, and you've got it, and look, these kids are not dumb; they're smart, and they want to play for a program that gives them the ability to showcase their talents. And I think we do that. I think we give them that ability to prove what they can do against some of the best players in the state and even sometimes in the country. And when they see that, you have more and more people that want to come to your program. Plus, when you average 29 wins a year for 43 years, people want some of that. It's not that we go out and recruit kids. They come in to see us. I don't have time to go recruit anybody. I have time to work with what I've got. And what I've got, we're going to try to do the best we can with what we have.
And that's paid dividends for you. Obviously, you talk about your players contributing to your success, but it's you that empowered them to go out there and do those things.
Yeah, I mean, look, it's about, you always hear this about the Jimmies and the Joes. There's no doubt about that. But there are a lot of teams that have Jimmies and Joes. You just got to put that team together where they become a team. Like Murrah the other night when we played Murrah, we had 27 baskets. We had 24 assists on those 27 baskets. We had 5 guys in double figures. It's those type games that showcase your whole team, not just 1 or 2 players. And if they're willing to pass the ball and distribute the ball to each other and not worry about who scores, but that we score, then you have a really good chance to win.
Absolutely. And you've coached a lot of high-level talent. We're talking about Josh Hubbard, Harrison Alexander. We mentioned Ashton McGee. So what's a quality that you see in them that separates the players that reach that type of level, the Division I level?
Yeah, I mean, one thing, is the athletic ability. No matter how good of a player, if you can't free yourself up, whether it's football or basketball, if a wide receiver is maybe the best receiver in the country, but if he runs a 4.8 40, he's not going to be able to free himself up against that 4.3 cornerback or defensive back. So in the same way in basketball, I mean, people don't realize Hub is one of the fastest guys we've had at MRA in a long time. Hub has a 42 vertical. He can dunk it any way you want to dunk it. He just doesn't do it anymore. But in high school, he used to dunk 3 or 4 times a game, because he was able to do that against some of these other guys. But you want to take those athletes and just let them do their thing, but also under your presence and making sure they're doing the right thing for the whole team and not just themselves.
Your entire career goes beyond basketball, and you often talk about the Lord intervening in your life. Basketball aside, how has God shaped your leadership and your understanding of life?
Well, 20-some years ago, I had friends that, I grew up in the Baptist church. I was my mother, and my mother we were at church every Sunday. We sat at that pew every Sunday. And when she died, they shut that pew off for about a month, wouldn't let anyone sit there in her honor. So I grew up in the church. When I went to college, I kind of broke away. Like a lot of college kids, I thought I could do it myself, and then made it through college and started coaching, and had a number of friends that had been on a weekend experience called the Walk to Emmaus. And I don't know if you know about the Walk to Emmaus, but I finally agreed to go, and that 72 hours brought the Lord back into my life and changed my life.
I love that. Looking at the big picture, when your career is all said and done, what do you want to be remembered for?
Well, I'd like to be remembered for, that I was a fair person. I cared about my players and I cared about them as an individual, not just as a player. Uh, that it makes me proud to see them come back as grown men or grown women and with their families and raise their families like that the Lord wants you to, and and that I was always competitive. I hated losing, and but I was always fair.
I can definitely see that in you, Coach, without even being coached by you. Before we wrap up, Coach, we're going to get into the last segment called the lifelong learner. What's something you're actively learning or still trying to get better at?
Um, Sometimes it's patience. Uh, sometimes it's taking a step back and not reacting to my first uh, thought of retaliation. Just being more reserved, and then when it's time to speak. Uh, I try to say, Lord, direct me here. If I get into something that I do get a little upset with, Lord, direct me and let me take a step back and make sure that I'm doing what you want me to do. And that's what I want my players to do too. I want them to don't just react on your own. Always look to the Lord for anything you do, say, and and I think we'll be okay if we do that.
Amen to that. Coach, I just want to say thank you again for the standard you set and the impact you've had on so many lives through the game. I believe you truly did it God's way, and best of luck to you and your guys for the rest of the season. And we really appreciate you for taking the time out to be on Hardwood Voices today.
It was my pleasure, and remember these: go Patriots.
All right, guys, this has been another episode of Hardwood Voices. Stay curious, stay humble, and keep growing.